Okay, everyone, welcome back. Basically, it froze on me, and I now remember why it did this before. Essentially, it froze at about 74%, and then I just so it was not responding. So I went to Task Manager and quit it, and was going to restart it up and load the files in again when I realized offshore wells, as you can see in the layers table of contents over here, it's offshore wells is there. And if you remove the wells file, you can clearly see that it actually did finish its analysis. It just uh, essentially just froze anyway. So these points here are actually, if we go in close enough, you'll find out they are actually in the water. So no reason to be concerned about that, and you just use this back button and you can zoom back to where you were started. So essentially now what we're going to do is we're going to make a point called London, and this point will represent distance, the cost of shipping the crude oil or natural gas to London. From there it'll be shipped basically around the world or wherever. So we're going to make a new point, and how you do that is you add a new shapefile up here at the top, and you can add a point, a line, or a polygon. We're just going to do a point because although you could represent London as a polygon, it would be so small that it wouldn't even be worth it. And you can add attributes if you really want to, that will show up in the attribute table. We could add, for example, maybe population, and that would be a numeric or a whole number, and width of 10. We can make it a width of 20. That's just like the character. Apparently you can't do 20. I don't know why you can't. Maybe you can only do 10. So width of 10, and add it to the attribute list, and bam, it pops up right there. So that's awesome. So we can make a point, and we'll go to OK. Now you got to save the name of it, and we're in the right one. Here we are. Yes, we are. And we'll call this one London point. And we'll just save it as, and it'll add itself. But of course, it doesn't have any geometry yet because we haven't given it anything. So essentially, what we're going to do is we're just going to go add it or make a geometry for it. So we're going to add London in approximately where London is in real life. If you can't see where I am, I'm down here on this little river. I don't know what the name of this river. It might be called the Thames actually, but I'm just guessing on that. And then here's the river, and we're going to go to this part right here with the little droopity droop. I'm not sure if this is actually where London is. I'm pretty sure it is kind of where London is though. And we're going to add London. So how do we add London? Make sure London's highlighted in the attribute layer. Toggle editing. Add a feature. And we're just going to put one right there. ID number 1 with a population of 4 million. Let's see if that's even the right. Oh, that might be too many zeros. Yeah, that's 4.5 million. There it is, done. And then you're just gonna go save edits and toggle editing. As you can see, when you're editing, you'll have this little pencil next to your to the feature. So I'm not editing offshore wells or wells or anything else. I'm just editing London point, so you can't mess up any other files. And we'll just toggle this off, and our point remains. And you can see if I unselected or deselected, it'll remain there. So now let's use our fancy little backup button, and we'll get back to where we were when we started. Ta-da! So we're going to change the color of London so we can actually see it, so it doesn't look like a offshore well, because that would be very confusing. So maybe we'll make it yellow. Make it a pure yellow, nice and bright. Although it's ugly, it's good for analysis to have very vibrant colors. So there's London. Not to confuse it with any other points. One of the buttons you're going to want to make sure you have selected when you're doing all this stuff is this control rendering button down here in the left corner. At one point when I was doing this earlier, I had it unselected, and I had layers that were seemingly like I had. If with this button selected, you have offshore wells will always be on the top, and then coastline will be on the bottom, and it'll just be that progression, that hierarchy. But without this, it just, I'm not sure how it renders it, but it basically just however the files were input or something, is how they will stack on the map. So make sure this one's always selected, otherwise you'll be very confused, as I was for quite a while. Now we're going to start doing a buffer, and this is going to be interesting. And so essentially what we're doing is we're making a buffer to the shipping point. So we're assuming that all oil in this region is going to be shipped to London, where it'll be processed and then shipped away. So the closer you are to London, the less cost you have included with shipping. And we thought about doing a buffer that did not include that would not go over the land, but that's kind of difficult to do. And additionally, you know, to ship from, for example, this point here, you could just ship it there and drive it across. Presumably there's roads to there anyway. It's not like you have to go all the way around here with ships, like this was the year 1000 AD or something. So yeah, you can use pipelines and stuff, which we're assuming. So basically the distance is, although it's not uniform, it's not entirely, you're not entirely limited to just shipping by sea. So with that being said, let's start a buffer. So once again, you're going to go into vector and you're going to go into one of these. I forget what I always. Yep, geoprocessing tools, buffers, and we are going to buffer the London point, and the buffer distance is going to be 2. Now you're like, 2 what? And to be honest with you, I think that 2 is longitude latitude. That's the only thing that I can come up with that it is, but it works, trust me. And so we're going to call this, now this is where you got to be very careful with your naming here, okay? We're going to call this I think we'll call this distance buffer 2 or underscore 2 maybe. Oh, I almost blew that. Distance buffer 2. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, and then okay. Would you like to add it to the table of contents? Yes, I would. And there you go. Ta-da! And so we're just going to drag this down here, and you can see it's underneath the rest of them. So basically all the ones in that area will be prime shipping areas. And then we're just going to continue to do this process. So geoprocessing tools, buffers. Now we're not going to. Now you have a couple options here. Either you could buffer off of London and go 4, or you could buffer off of your last buffer, like distance buffer 2, and add 2. So I mean, maybe it makes most sense to do. It might make most sense to do London, a buffer of 4. And I'm just going to show you something here. See, presumably, London buffer 4 would be a polygon that's this big, or whatever. So we're just going to show you what it looks like here. So basically, just click on this and add a 4 instead of a 2, and you've got your buffer 4. And yes, add it to the table of contents. Okay, and now it's actually, since it's above it, it will bury it, but if we go to, now this is what I had experimented with, and I'm kind of confused why it didn't work, is now we tried buffering off of London for our 4 buffer. Now if we try to do our 6 buffer off of our distance 4 buffer, we should be able to, if we do a buffer distance of 2, that would presumably make it a circle this big, right? But what I don't understand is why it includes the buffer itself. Like, why does it include, like, why is it not a donut essentially? I mean, I've tried this a couple times now and I can't get it to work. So we'll try it now and we'll see if it works. This is going to be distance buffer 6. And we'll just load her up here. And you'll see that it's not a donut. See, it's not a donut. Now if I try to do it the other way, we're going to input 4 with a 2 buffer on it, and we'll go 6. We'll call this B because it's a different attempt. And if we try to do this dissolve buffer results, the hope would be that it would make a donut so that the interior of the 6 of buffer layer 6 would be right here, which would save us a step later on. But it doesn't. So I'm kind of disappointed in that, but that's the way it is. So let's just keep on rolling on. So we'll go to buffer 6 and we'll do a buffer of 2, and we'll call this one buffer 8. Add it to the table of contents, and you're basically just going to repeat this. So just make sure every time it wants to default to coastline for some reason, because I guess it's the first layer that was added. So just make sure that you you account for that every time, as we will. So here's buffer distance 10, and feel free to do this assignment with me if you would like. You know, I might have made a mistake there. I feel like I did. No, I didn't. Okay. This becomes very repetitive at times, especially when you're trying to. It's interesting trying to kind of provide a talk and do this at the same time. Yep, that's correct. So as you can see, we're starting to establish quite a few little funny lines here. Let's go find 12, and this will be our last one. 14's our last one. And let's add it to the table of contents. There you go. That includes all the points. So now let's just reorder these so we can get an idea of what we're dealing with. Whoopsies, I almost pulled the wrong one there. So we'll put 2 on the top, and then all the way down. Almost getting my numbers mixed up here. We can remove 6B. There's a couple ways to remove a layer. You can just right click on it and click remove, or you can just click on it and come up here and click remove layers. Works the same way. And there you... What? Okay, I was going to say, it looked like we had an issue. There it is. Resolved. So as you can see, we've got quite I don't know, a very ugly, contrasting colored map. But don't worry about that yet. We're not at the analysis stage or the final production stage, so, you know, looks doesn't matter that much. And besides, all of these buffer layers we'll get rid of them. We'll make them into donuts in just a second here. So let's go make them into donuts right now. How to make them into donuts? So essentially, we're going to go from this is why we're going to make them into donuts. First of all, distance number 2. So this circle in here, which is behind the coastline. See? Ta-da! It's right there. Essentially, what's going to happen is all the wells that are let's just get rid of the coastline for a minute. All the wells that are inside, this is almost like a target board essentially, but the problem is you don't want the problem is it's not really a target board. It's like having a bunch of plates that are stacked on top of each other that are varying widths. So you've got a really big plate on the bottom and they get smaller and smaller all the way up to the top. But what we want is independent pieces. So we want one small one, and then a donut around it, and a donut around it, and a donut around it. As it looks like it is now, but as you can see, you know, buffer 4 includes buffer 2, and buffer 14 includes all the ones below it. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove them so that when we perform the analysis in the end, when we look at anything within 2. A distance of 2 from London, they will, a better example would be when we look at anything inside a distance of 4, we won't get the ones that are already included previously. We just want the ones in that range. We're making individual fields and not cumulative fields in a sense. So, with that being said, I hope that wasn't too confusing because it sounded kind of confusing for some reason. Let's just get right to it and you'll see what's happening here. Nope, we're not doing a buffer anymore. My bad. We are doing a difference as we've done before. A difference. And we're going to input 14. Hold on, let me just think about this here for a sec. We are going to input 14 by 12. I think that's how we do it. We do it top to bottom. Or do we do it inside out? I feel like we should do it inside out. We should do 4 by 2. I think that sounds right. So now we'll just do now we'll just shorten the name to buffer 4. I guess. Is that what we're doing? So we're doing distance of 4 minus the 2. Yeah, that's right. That'll work. And I'm just going to show you how this worked here. So we'll get rid of 2 and we'll get rid of 4. We'll get rid of all of them actually first here. And I'll just show you how it's working here. Ta-da! There's buffer 4. So all those, that is an exclusive field. All these ones in here are not included in that distance region. Which I wish that step had been, I wish the donut feature was available earlier on, but unfortunately it's not. So let's just turn all these on again. It's not necessary to turn them on. You can perform functions on them when they're turned off, but I just like to see them because I find the draw speed is actually pretty good for quantum. It's better than I had experienced before. So let's get back into it again here with our differences. So now we're going to do, there's our buffer 4, so let's just be careful that we do the right one. So now we're going to do 6 on 4, output buffer 6. And you won't have to do a buffer 2 because that would just be repetitive. So we've got buffer 4 and 6, and now we'll do 8 on 6, and this will be called buffer 8. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Darn it! I was so close. I was so close. Ah, that was lousy of me to do that. We did 6, so now we're doing 8. 8 on 6. I wonder if I can make this bigger so I don't have this problem again. There we go, that'd probably be better. I don't know, I still have to scroll. That's silly. Okay, 8 on 6, so buffer 8. Save it up. I would like to add it. And once again, it resets as I mentioned earlier, so just be careful that you don't mess it up. Make sure you're clicking distance buffer, not your new outputs, otherwise you'll get confusion. File name will be buffer 10. Okay. And now buffer 12 on buffer 10. Buffer 12. And we're almost done, guys, already. It's very exciting. And buffer 14 on buffer 12. Couldn't find it for a sec there. There we go. Done. We're done with this different stuff, guys. And now I will, whoopsies, close this. So now we're gonna, well, let's just get rid of all of these distance ones here. Well, we'll just take them off visually first before we get rid of them, so you can see what we've done. So there you can see what is that? What is that green one right there? I don't know what that was. So yeah, here's all our layers, and let's just get rid of some of them here. Okay, let's just get rid of all these ones. Actually, they're just being silly. Now, can you multi-select them? Oh, yes, you can. And so we'll just get rid of a bunch of them. Look at that efficiency. So now we'll just sort them here. 10 below 8, 12 below 10, 14. Oh, this is an old one too. 14. Oh, did I get rid of? Oh, I got rid of buffer 2. So if you ever get rid of something you don't want to get rid of, just go into add the vector layer, and you can pull it back in. There it is. So here's our layers. Now I'll just remove every second one so you can see what we've done. Ta-da! And there's your donut layers. So now you have specific distances for specific wells, so we can perform proper analysis on them. In the next step, guys, I'm not sure if we're doing this in parts of videos or not, but in the next step we will be looking at, we'll be making the color scheme look better, so this will actually look really awesome. Let's just throw the coastline on there so it looks like we're actually doing something and not just joking around here. We'll change the color scheme, and we'll start looking at some other constraints like well depth and environmental constraints. So in the future we'll be making a polygon file, and we'll be making shape files from attribute tables and learning how to query an attribute table, essentially. So, good stuff. Good stuff.